Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, welcome. And thank you so very much for joining us here. I'm Kim Serafini, the founder and CEO, but the creator of Positive Prime, which is really a remarkable, truly extraordinarily, absolute leading edge transformative technology. It's a beautiful tool or a resource that we can use that actually really helps us to change in elegant and graceful ways, in very automatic, organic and natural ways, and indeed in ways that are quite frankly super fast and enduring. But we'll go more and more into that as we get through this little program together. So we've gathered, and I am going to give you a tiny little bit of background for those of you who may not yet know me. I'm clearly sounding like an Aussie, am an Aussie, and I'm coming from down under. It is a beautiful morning here. I know that it's very cool and dark now in the Northern Hemisphere, right up there in the northeast of the United States and over there in Europe and the UK. I am so completely enthralled, fascinated, super curious, amazed, and excited, absolutely passionate about the overall theme and subject for today's, let's call it seminar or class. Why? Well, because if you want to be really incredibly successful in your direct sales or your network marketing business or as an entrepreneur, or you want to be a truly remarkable grandmother or mother, if you want to be a leading world-class entertainer or creator in the arts, quite frankly, I hope you're really going to understand our health is really where our wealth is. And I'm going to say a little bit that could be considered controversial. I'm going to share a little bit that could be prickly for some or provocative for some. I'm not going to hold back and actually pull any punches though. What I think is going to be necessary is a couple of underlying fundamental frameworks or philosophies and principles, some pieces of knowledge that really will create a nice foundation. And I don't think that we can have meaningful and significant discussions or understanding without those pieces in place. So bear with me whilst I ask you to go on a little journey with me and do a couple of exercises with me that hopefully will help to illustrate some of the points much more, we call it epistemically, like so the entire of you, your body, your mind, your soul, the environment that you're in, all of you actually gets to really have this exquisite knowledge be useful and beneficial so that you can apply it. I am very well known for most of our programs are for real people with real lives who have real challenges, real problems, and also real opportunities, but also are very real with themselves and understand that we as humans, we have all sorts of foibles and idiosyncrasies, and we have pasts where, you know, quite frankly, we've probably still got to do a lot of forgiveness work, and we still aren't exactly the Mother Teresas of the planet yet, but we're all intending to become much better, more compassionate, more kind, more loving. We're all interested in being inspired and following our mission and so forth. So in order for us to be the very best that we can be, and in order for us to truly love the lives that we're living and celebrate and love it all, we actually have to be really healthy. One of the things that I love about the health word is it's actually H-E-A-L, heal, right? Because our bodies are on a constant healing cycle. So this is one of the fundamental principles I want to go into. Every single day we have all sorts of bodily functions and activities, even like eating. Eating actually causes us to actually have so many processes where there is in fact a byproduct. There's a consequence and an implication. And a lot of oxidative stress is actually created when we eat. So there are waste products produced in all production, in all processes in our body and also in our environment. And most of you understand that. Most of you will have heard that we have a lymphatic system that is 3 to 4 times, there's a little bit of conjecture over that, more lymph flows through our body than blood, right? And the actual vast networks for our lymphatic system. And quite frankly, what our beautiful lymphatic nodes actually cleanse, it's so essential, because otherwise all of this waste that we produce as we live our lives, as we are just human beings, it has to be eliminated. And of course, there are major elimination channels. Our skin, of course. And if you've ever spent some time in hospital and you've ever had major surgery, they will say to you that, quite frankly, if you don't poop, you die, right? So it's really important. And one of the things that we're going to discuss is that a lot of the aspects of the recipe or the protocol or the formula, the ingredients for that I'm going to give you today, they're very similar if you're actually trying to prevent Alzheimer's, or you're dealing with a cardiovascular disease, or in fact you might be pre-diabetic, or you have another autoimmune function issue. And I'm going to go back a step and just tell you how it is that I came to be here. So interestingly enough, about 20 odd years ago, I left the corporate world where I had been a bright young thing, super smart, super dynamic, very ambitious, very driven, committed to my career. And I'd had a trajectory that was like almost vertical. So I really went up through the ranks, climbed the ladder fast. I showed up to work before everybody else. I stayed longer than everybody else. And I really applied myself. I wasn't yet a master of efficiency or effectiveness. And I really struggled with being a procrastinator and a perfectionist. Neither of those two things I would describe myself as these days. But I was quite confident, and very early on, I'd done the Anthony Robbins Life Mastery University program. I'd gone and done all these seminars, but I'd actually listened to all of those cassette tapes. Remember when we did that in our cars as we were driving? So that's some 30 odd years ago. So I graduated from business school and I found myself in London, and I had an incredible time with projects that were based in North America, basically out of New York and Pennsylvania. And I spent a fair bit of time in California. And that really opened my eyes. But I'd been a very, very, very fortunate young woman. My parents had really organized our lives such that we did a lot of travel, even when I was a child, to America and to Europe and so forth. Well, about 20 years ago, I went through my own mini crisis, and I had migraines all the time. And I would have a massage no matter where I was on the planet. And I'd be lying there thinking, I wonder where the margins are in this. And I'd specialized in the corporate world in management consulting and change management consulting, in particular in the field of mergers and acquisitions with huge, large corporate companies coming together, merging. And we did all of this integration work and transformation work in large corporate organizational environments. I had great mentors, really fantastic leaders who taught me a lot and inspired me and encouraged me and supported me. And I learned a lot. And I was like the perfect example of somebody who you could tell something to, and then I would test it out and I would trial it and I would see how it worked in my own life and so forth. Well, I decided, shockingly to a lot of people who knew me very well, that I would take a sabbatical and I would go back and study. And so to fast track, I became a qualified sports therapist. I specialized in cardiac rehabilitation, and I was really committed to treating people who had sporting injuries. And so I was one of those qualified personal trainers or fitness trainers as well. And I was so incredibly enamored with the spa industry, with health retreats. And 20 odd years ago, they didn't look like they do now. So to fast track, what actually happened as part of my life story is I was using an ultrasound machine on an injury, and I started to think about natural applications, natural healing modalities that could be involved in repairing people. And I am now very well known as having invented, like actually created, what is now known as hot stone massage, but started as lithos therapy, which actually translates to rock therapy, where we used handcrafted marble sculptures black marble, white marble, and they were perfect shapes and sizes, and we used them therapeutically as tools in advanced styles of massage and facial treatments and so forth. The reason why I tell you this is because it actually will help you to understand why some of the aspects of the recipe that I give you are really key. So what happened was I ended up training over 5,000 therapists over 8 years in the spa industry. And spa means salas per aqua, health through water. And that's a very important part of this story. And so I would train the lecturers at like the Australasian College of Natural Therapies. I would go and train the trainers and the spa directors at like the Four Seasons resort spas. And I went to amazing, absolutely exquisite places like Ananda in the Himalayas, or they call them the Himalayas. And it was there as I was training these Ayurvedic doctors and therapists that I had my own download, right? I was meditating, I was in the Himalayas, absolutely true. And I started to realize that a lot of what I was learning in the spa industry was about how our emotions impact our health, how actually there are emotions that make us sick. And a lot of people who come to health retreats are on a journey, and usually there is something quite dire going on. There's a crisis. And for others, it's really chronic disease that they're dealing with. And me being me, really started to do a lot of research, a lot of reading on emotions. And I wrote a book called I Am Grateful for Life. And gratitude, I discovered, was one of these key emotions that you need, we need, I need, we all need to experience this intense, full-bodied appreciation. And I wrote a book, it became a bestseller, it got me out onto the speaker's circuit. And I'm telling you, the way that my life has unfolded and the acceleration means that I'm here now, and I had my own wake-up call earlier this year. So effectively, I'm driving along in the road, and interestingly enough, I had no warning, but I went completely unconscious at the wheel. And I actually had the car go and smash into some trees, and the car was written off. And I, thank goodness, am not in a wheelchair. I had some minor soft tissue damage that actually I managed to heal incredibly fast. And I can tell you about that. It was really to do with hydrogen-rich, ionized, alkalizing water, and a whole heap of other aspects like my own energy healing, my own Reiki healing on myself, and so forth. But what it forced me to do was dive a lot deeper into the autonomic nervous system, the balancing of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. And it made me completely and utterly go back to basics. And I revisited all of my anatomy and physiology textbooks. And then, without anybody ever expecting, about a couple of months later, my beautiful other half actually had a health crisis and ended up having a quadruple coronary artery bypass surgery. And I've been through the cardiac rehab process with him now over the last 12 weeks. And I've actually been attending the classes at the hospital that's running the cardiac rehab program. And I'll tell you, I'm sitting there and they're talking about risk factors for coronary heart disease, like artery disease, valve disease, et cetera, cardiovascular issues. And they're saying, you know, one of the risk factors is blood pressure, and we know that. But, you know, quite frankly, I don't have high blood pressure, and neither does he. And so you might switch off because you go, oh, that doesn't apply to me. But as I'm listening, this exercise physiologist who's leading the class says, and you know, the only way is to reduce your blood pressure through diet and exercise. And I was sitting there and I had this aha and this incredible moment. And I was like, when did you do your training? Because that is just not fact. Today, in this day and age, that's not the truth anymore, because we know from the scientific evidence that is being presented to us and shared with us that we're applying. We know that mindfulness meditation, we know that the breathing practices in a yoga practice, we know that that reduces blood pressure. Now, I'm not saying that diet and exercise aren't absolutely essential areas to focus on. In fact, they are key. Absolutely imperative. However, it's not all of the story. It's not the whole story. So what's interesting is that over the last couple of years, as I have developed what is now called positive prime, I have worked with a lot of amazing people who have invited me into projects. And one of those people is actually an OBGYN, functional medicine leader, and her name is Annika Becker. And she invited me onto a tele summit, and it's clear that I can present online, and we have an amazing product, and we usually can put together amazing deals. And so I get invited, and we've got a huge community, tens of thousands of people now. And so people always want me to partner with them to promote their programs. Anyway, so recently I was asked to be involved in Alzheimer's, the Science of Prevention, a huge documentary that was turned into a series and delivered online. And they had tens of thousands of people actually go through this program simultaneously, all at the same time. And you can actually buy the program. And a lot of what I was listening to and a lot of what I was learning was reinforcing what I already know. And I thought, okay, so what's key is that what prevents Alzheimer's is also, quite interestingly, what prevents coronary heart disease, artery disease, valve disease, like cardiovascular issues. And even more fascinatingly, it actually deals with most of the autoimmune issues. So whether we're talking about diabetes, or we're talking about arthritis, or we're talking about Crohn's disease, or we're talking about 100 other options. The funny thing is that if you get this formula right, you can actually totally change the quality of your life and highly likely the quantity in your life. In other words, the mortality and morbidity issues should almost disappear for you, depending upon how great you are at adhering to this. And so what I want to be able to do is give you a whole heap of very, very quick suggestions and advice. You can go off and research each one of them much more. You can actually also, if you're interested, find out a lot more, because I'm going to give you an opportunity to participate in a program. So what's re-emerging for me is I haven't been leading or hosting any health retreats recently. I did a lot in Bali a couple of years ago, and then life just took a completely different path, and I was very focused on building this technology software business. And I didn't really create the time or the opportunity in my own schedule so that I could actually run some retreats. And I've decided that I'm going to do that again. And I already have lots of people who are inquiring and placing their deposits and so forth. And we actually do live in this magnificent environment. Our estate is perfect to run retreats where we really focus on harmony and tranquility and serenity and dealing with effectively negative emotions that need to be resolved in order for us to actually be able to heal. So I'm going to give you a whole heap of quick statements. You might be able to want to write them down. And then what I'm going to say to you is, look, let's just assume that one of the key things I'm going to say to you is, if you would consider giving up all dairy products, it would honestly be absolutely fantastic in terms of you feeling amazing. And it's not that you have to do it forever, but most people who have autoimmune diseases actually are probably also lactose intolerant, and you can go and have a colonoscopy and a gastroscopy and you can actually figure that out for yourself. But what'll happen if I say that, for the majority of people I say that to, is they say, there's no way I'm giving up my coffee with milk in it, or I love brie cheese, or I couldn't possibly think that I couldn't have lasagna anymore because that's a really amazing meal that's made with a lot of cheese. Or bechamel sauce is one of my favorite things, right? So we have a lot of thoughts, a lot of beliefs that are attached to almost every aspect that I'm going to lay out here for you. And one of the beautiful things about Positive Prime is that as a neuroscience, positive psychology change tool or resource that accesses your other than consciousness and helps you to reprogram yourself, you actually have a fighting chance, so that the garbage that is this self-talk that usually sabotages us is actually just laid to rest for a while, or long enough for you to be able to make really powerful forward movement in terms of lifestyle changes or habits that need to be in place for you to prevent Alzheimer's, for you to prevent coronary artery disease. So let's just get some facts on the table. If you are in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, 50% of us are going to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's. 50% of us are going to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I don't know if I need to say that again, but that is a whole heap more and a higher percentage than people who are going to be diagnosed with cancer, right? If you are pre-diabetic or diabetic, you have double the chances. We know now from brain scans that Alzheimer's starts to develop in your 30s. So a lot of people go, oh, I don't really need to worry about this. I'll think about it in my 50s or 60s. I'm really, 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 really sorry. But that is just not the right attitude we need to have. We need everybody in their 30s and 40s to understand this information. And yet, if you're already in your 60s and you already are experiencing cognitive decline, the truth is you can actually halt it, reverse it. It is possible. We need to understand that our bodies are just truly magical, right? And we also actually really need a gentle approach to this. And I'll give you an example. We now know from brain scans and from neuroscience research studies that neurons that wire together, neurons that fire together, reinforce wire and fire together, right? So I want you to imagine that you have one thought that leads to another thought. And the more you think that, the more you actually create this incredibly reinforced walking pathway or this pathway. And I kind of think, imagine you're going into pristine jungle and you're actually having to fight your way through the jungle the first time you make that little journey. And then you might invite some friends along, or, you know, it's on Insta, travel top tips, and all of a sudden there are hordes, and, you know, now people are trampling through this pristine rainforest and there's a bigger and wider path. And then some authorities come along and they say, hey, you know what, if we actually put down a proper pathway and we create some structures and we put some safety railings in, we actually build in this structure, that path is going to be permanent. Well, the same things happen with our beliefs. So we think one thing, and let's just say it might be, oh, I think that given I've got some issues and I want to give up gluten, I've been facing some adrenal issues, I've got Hashimoto's as a diagnosis, I clearly have read or I've heard that giving up gluten, giving up wheat products is actually really important and beneficial, and I can try it. What happens is you have an initial thought. And if you practice that initial thought a lot and you have lots of reinforcement to it and it becomes part of your identity, your change is much more likely, and it's more likely or probable that it'll be enduring. However, once you've actually made some changes and things have settled down and you're no longer faced with these serious symptoms that are alarming you, what can actually happen is we can revert back to old ways because we're not in this acute and alert situation anymore. And once we've made some changes in one area, we might not focus on all the other areas that are a part of our lives. And this is why people who have known something and practiced something, as soon as they stop practicing it over a period of time, they kind of forget who they were or the kinds of habits that they have. And so they also need to be reinitiated. And I say this because I'm the kind of person who was really amazing when it came to exercising consistently. And yet I allowed myself to actually forget that I am the type of person who likes exercise. And I went through at least a couple of years of spending way too much time working in a sedentary position. And quite frankly, I did not do what was necessary. But here's what we know, part of the formula. Exercise is so important. It's not just any exercise though. It's 150 beats per minute for 150 minutes a week if you're in your 40s. If you're in your 60s, it's actually about 120 beats per minute for 150 minutes a week. 150 minutes. That's at least 30 minutes, at least 5 times a week. what happens when we hear some of these things is that in our brain we go, oh yeah, but my personal trainer says that I need to do resistance training as well, and I need to do weights, and I couldn't possibly fit in 300 minutes. And so we actually go, well, I won't even try, right? So we kind of let ourselves off the hook if it feels too hard. I could actually give you gems like 150 beats per minute for 150 minutes per week. And that is what we actually scientifically, medically know is necessary to prevent Alzheimer's, right? The good thing is that if you're not yet exercising, you can start gradually. I am actually going to do a masterclass on diet and exercise. There's a lot we need to cover in an hour just on these two subjects. But I'll tell you the other thing. Until very recently, like I'm talking the last couple of years, these new discoveries from brain scans, neurosurgeons at work, they didn't even understand that we actually have a completely different waste removal cleansing system in our brain called the glymphatic system compared to what we know about the body's lymphatic system, right? So what's fascinating is your glymphatic system is linked to your circadian rhythms, which, by the way, are natural processes that happen as soon as sunlight hits your eyes. And in fact, it's all skewy if you've got a lot of blue light. So if you watch a lot of TV at night, or you have a lot of LED lights, or you actually use your social devices or your computer, that actually whacks out, completely disrupts your circadian rhythms. However, what we know is that your glymphatic system works when you are sleeping. We know that you need at least 7.5 to 9 hours of good quality, decent sleep consistently. We know that you can't actually make up for it. You can't actually be sleep deprived during the week and then sleep in on the weekends and actually your body go through that cleansing process. It doesn't happen, right? So I want you to know that we have a program where I want you to feel like you're coming on retreat to me here in Australia. Let me just, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to share a screen for a second and I'm going to show you a couple of resources. So bear with me because I think you're going to like some of this. So, oh, hang on. I'm navigating around my computer here and getting distracted. We don't like that, do we? Sharing. Sharing, here we go. All right, perfectly. So Serafini Mind Spa has been in existence for over 5 years. It was really the culmination of everything I'd learned in that journey through the spa industry. But one of the things that I wanted people to be able to do was actually take some time out and to give themselves the chance to really think about what they're grateful for and why, and to feel appreciation and gratitude and thankfulness. And in doing so, what I knew was they would, quite frankly, allow for greater oxygen absorption out of the blood system. They would allow for much better elastin and collagen production so that actually your muscles work better, you become more flexible. There's a whole heap of really incredible upsides when we feel certain emotions. And there are also some alarming downsides when we feel other emotions. So Serafini Mind Spa was really this chance for me to create a retreat that people could come along for health and well-being, body, mind, and spirit, and also really to focus on not just these physical solutions and these physical protocols, but also to understand that, quite frankly, if we all focus more on really healing our thoughts and our emotions, we'd be a whole heap better. So if you're in positive prime already, you've heard me say this. So bear with me for those of you who've never heard me say this. There's something interesting that we know. When you see a picture of a smile, and you need to see around about 100 authentic, real, genuine, sincere smiles every single day, and you actually need to see smiling for at least 3 minutes, what happens is your visual cortex is activated, your mirror neurons actually send messages to your endocrine system, and hormonally you start to produce more oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and other neurotransmitters. And quite frankly, we know that people who are sleep deprived with circadian rhythms that are completely out of whack, that circadian rhythm actually manages our body's temperature and also manages the rise and fall of hormones. And so if I was to show you these smiles, I could change the chemical cocktail that is inside your body, and it could be healthy and healing. And if we can do that, then we can understand that what our eyes process and how we're feeling actually has this real impact on the way that our bodies function. And interestingly enough, when you see smiles, your body doesn't know whether you are smiling or not. It assumes you are. Your mirror neurons and the way that these connections are made, your body assumes you are smiling. So your body creates this chemical cocktail inside your own body in response to this belief that you're smiling, right? When we understand emotions and the impacts or the effects of them, we've got half a chance. I'll give you another example. We know for a fact that if you do 15 minutes of emotions in a day, like anger, like you're just angry, you're really frustrated, and there are 1,000 things that make you angry. And I actually advise people in our retreat program to go through and write a list of things that actually do anger you, that make you feel irate, that frustrate you, right? That set you off, that really stress you out. And then a list that really, things that you're really worried about. What happens is that you become hyper aware of how often and how intense these emotions are. So this is what we know. If you experience 15 minutes of this general anger, frustration and disappointment, resentment, guilt and shame, it's the equivalent of smoking a packet of cigarettes a day. And I'm pretty sure that the majority of you would never even consider that much toxicity in your body. The crazy thing is I used to be a smoker. And so I would read these, research studies that said if you had IV vitamin C, then quite frankly, you could negate or neutralize this amount of toxicity. But quite frankly, I'll see people who are sanctimonious, or they're standing on their high ground about how perfect they are because their diet is gluten-free and dairy-free and egg-free. And in the same human being, you see them behave in such a way, driven by their thoughts and their feelings, by their beliefs and their emotions, in such a way that they're causing more toxicity inside themselves than all of the other super amazing aspects that they're so incredibly proud of sharing with everyone. So what I kind of want to do is go back and say, all right, none of us are perfect. We're actually all human. And if we can actually just be a lot better at experiencing in very intense ways more empowering emotions like love and gentility, this generosity towards ourselves, this compassion, kindness. And if we can actually allow everybody, so if we can almost become the kinds of pure human beings that don't judge others. In judgment, there's actually this byproduct that quite frankly is over here in the anger emotion, right? Because part of that is you feeling righteous. And when you're feeling righteous, you're making other people wrong. And it's actually the same kind of signature as there is to what makes you angry and what frustrates you. And so what I decided was that I would run retreats again, but I also decided that I would run a virtual retreat, and you have an opportunity to do that. If you're keen, it's going to be included. You're invited to participate if you are already a VIP member of Positive Prime. So you actually have a subscription at the VIP level, or you are a signature member. Okay, so if you are a signature member and or you are a VIP, you are actually automatically included, you're invited. If you are not yet a subscriber to Positive Prime, you have this opportunity until this time next week to sign up for this particular program, and we will gift you the signature membership. Now, let me read all of this out to you, and I'll put it in the chat, so maybe you want to open it up and I can actually have some questions. Just bear with me for a second while I play with my little navigational Zoom dashboard. So there's the link. So what I'm saying is that in a retreat, normally in one day, we focus on how to actually really understand what our thoughts and our feelings, what our beliefs and emotions, what impact that's having on our health. And we go through a whole heap of little activities. I'll tell you what some of them are, right? One of the first is I would get you to actually write down a list of all of your strengths, your gifts, and your talents. And I want you to really think about how have they served you in your life to date. And then I want you to actually decide how you are going to employ, leverage, and harness these strengths, gifts, and talents going forward. And every single day, I want you to remind yourself, so have a post-it note, maybe on a mirror or on the inside of your refrigerator, where it says, use a new, different strength today. And so you would go and have a look at your list and you say, you know what, today, one of my strengths is actually patience. And so today I'm going to use my ability to be patient, and I'm going to use that strength all day. Now, I'll tell you something, it's a secret. I was terrible at patience. Terrible, terrible, terrible for at least the first 45 years of my life, which, by the way, is the majority, right? And then I watched a Positive Prime session that was about actually retraining my brain so that I could actually become patient and actually adopting the identity of being a patient person, which is one of the things that, of course, a Positive Prime session enables. And I have transformed into quite a patient person. I really and truly am so different today than I was 10 years ago with this just one aspect, right? And I cannot wait to see how this now serves me as I keep developing and using this strength over the next 10 to 20 years, right? So at a normal retreat on another day, because our retreats are usually 5 days long, we would really focus on hydration and sleep. I think it's really important that you know these things. So during sleep, your glymphatic system is working. But the other thing is that you actually have this regulation of two important hormones. And with lack of sleep, you throw this into disarray. And one of those hormones is leptin, and it is actually the stop hormone. And if you are sleep deprived, you have 20% more of this other hormone called ghrelin, and ghrelin actually is what makes you want to eat. So a lot of people who are sleep deprived actually have real difficulty in losing weight, and it's because of leptin and ghrelin. See, ghrelin tells your brain, hey, you know what? Eat, you need to eat, you need to eat, you need to eat. But leptin says, hey, I'm full. Now that hey, I'm full hormone, you have 15% less when you're sleep deprived, right? So I want you to know that when you go on a health retreat, you actually get to learn so much that once you have a new understanding, or actually you've just been refreshed and you're remembering what you already knew, you have a much better chance of applying some of this knowledge. So in week 3, we talk about nutrition and exercise. In week 4, we actually talk about why it is so important for you to actually organize a massage. Now, if you're going to do this virtual retreat with me, right, then I'm going to actually give you and this is what you need to organize, right? So I'm going to say to you things like, I want you to actually acquire some lavender oil, and I'm going to show you how many drops and where to put them in order to actually help you have a physiological response that's going to aid good quality sleep. I might be able to tell you about peppermint oil. I might be able to say, look, in healing, we need oxytocin, right? We need this. We need to actually be touched. And if you are not in a relationship and you are not getting really good quality hugs from your family members, and it's not lasting for at least 16 seconds, well then quite frankly, you need to actually book yourself in for a relaxation massage, right? So I'm going to go through all of these different aspects as we go through the course, and then we're going to really talk about random acts of kindness and vision boards. In this particular program, which is starting on November the 6th and finishing on December the 4th, the classes will be 1 hour each, and I will actually do a mindfulness meditation with you, and I will guide you through what to do to train your brain. So, for example, in this retreat, I'm going to get you to make sure that you have something like, oh, actually, I can show you. So see this? There's birds, right? Whoopsie daisies. Can you see this? So I want you to get yourself pictures, like a picture book, and I don't want you to color in. I want you to trace it. Can you see I've actually done this one? So we know that when you trace something and you're really specific and it's very fine, you're actually training your brain. You're improving the ability of your brain to actually repair the parts of your executive functioning so that you can make better decisions, right? So that you actually make less risky decisions. What's interesting to me is that if we don't all learn to do this several times a day, we're in serious trouble. And that is, put your finger directly underneath your nose and become acutely aware right now of this feeling of your breath in and out. Can you feel? Can you actually feel how warm and wet the air is in and out through your nose? Breathing in and out through your nose really softly, really in a concentrated way. That is mindfulness meditation. That is one of 1,000 different ways for you to access becoming incredibly laser focused on one thing. You had to forget everything else, what you need to do at lunch, who's trying to get a hold of you, whether you remembered to put the washing in the clothes dryer, not that you'd use a clothes dryer if you value the environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So just tell me, did you all experience that? Did you experience just a couple of moments of serenity or tranquility? Write in the group chat if you actually literally had your first experience of a real mindfulness exercise. Okay, so if you are a VIP member or a signature member, now that's not a premium member, and you'll know because you either pay $9.99 a month or you pay nothing yet, which means this is not included in your package, but you are invited if you pay $19.99 a month. If you are currently a free member of Positive Prime, or you're not even a member of Positive Prime yet, then you can sign up as a free member to begin with and then go to the subscription area and actually choose VIP or choose the signature membership, and you will actually be given this. Or you can use this particular page. And what I just really quickly want to tell you is that we're going to add something to it. I've done this once before. We created an elite membership whereby you as a VIP or a signature member could actually share this with friends, and today we're extending it to family, and today we're extending it to friends. So I'll tell you what we know. We know because of some new research, and this comes from my friend Sean Acor's Big Potential book. So let me just grab this here. Not the Framingham Heart Study, but I'll just read you this bit. In the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology, researchers found that if you are looking at a hill and judging how steep it is, the mere presence of social support around you transforms your perception. In fact, if you look at a hill while standing next to someone you consider to be a friend, the hill looks up to 20% less steep. That's a stunning scientific finding. perception of your objective physical world is transformed by including others in your pursuit of your achievement. So what I want is for you to share the positive prime journey of loving and celebrating it all with 5 people who you really, 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 really care about, okay? So what's going to happen is that you are going to tell us who are the people you want us to manually upgrade to your level of membership, and they too will be able to edit their sessions, to personalize them, to upload all their own photographs into their own content. They too will receive 240 credits per month. So they will be able to access all sorts of amazing wisdom in all of the sessions that we have, right? So if you are currently a signature member or you're currently a VIP member, we want you to now go and make sure that you have some support, social support for this particular reason. If you all try to make all of these lifestyle changes together, you are much more likely to succeed. It's going to be more enduring and reinforcing, but you'll actually also believe, right? You'll actually also believe that it's possible. So I want you to know though, right, if we are allowing 5 people to have an annual subscription, what they're actually receiving, this entire package just for that alone is worth nearly $2,500 in real value, right? If you are a signature member, you actually already receive something called a themed mix. And I'm going to show you actually, because there is a themed mix called Health is Wealth Collection Super Mix. And we've actually combined a couple of different sessions together, and so you can watch one session that has many sessions and they're all mixed and merged and shuffle, and so you can actually sit here and watch. So I literally now have personalized this because I can do this as a subscriber paying my monthly dues, and I've added all sorts of photographs of myself. And why have I done that? Because this is how the science works. Let's just say you want to get fit and you make this commitment to yourself, you decided, and actually you used to go to the gym, but you don't really do that anymore. You're not doing 150 minutes per week, and you need to change the way you think about yourself in order to be able to sustain your motivation to going to the gym. Well, from the science's point of view, when you see photographs of yourself inside the content and you see the content, your brain actually starts to weave this, it's like a spider's web, and you actually start to have your own identity change because you are within the results or the outcomes, right? So it is so incredibly important when you watch all of these different sessions, whether they're on finances and you want to become somebody who's really great at earning money, investing money, saving money, receiving money, amplifying money, having it work for you, not against you. You actually need to have photographs of yourself inside the content in order for your brain to actually accept, adopt, allow it to be absorbed that this is you. And what you'll find is, in a very, very, very subtle way, you will start to become fitter or better with money because your identity is now wrapped around this content that's incredibly wise and amazing, right? So I will literally now go to the gym in the morning and I'll be on the treadmill or on the cross trainer, and I will watch this session with all of these beautiful impulses. And I have noticed that being somebody who is now intermittent fasting on a keto diet has been effortless. I'm not fighting myself. I'm not struggling. I'm not saying, oh gosh, I really need to eat dinner, when I've decided that I've actually stopped eating at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 4:30 in the afternoon, and I'm not eating again until 9:30 or 10 o'clock. It is so incredibly beautiful to me that I can change without fighting myself, without debating with myself, without being in this tangle of like, but I want those sugary biscuits. And I go, well, no, because do you know what? In this particular content, if I look at all this health and wellbeing content, there are no photographs of anything that would contravene a much more nutrient-dense, whole foods, plant-based diet, right? So if you are currently a VIP member, which means you pay $159 a year right now, you will receive these themed mixes as they're created and added to your account. Now, themed mix is actually a whole heap of sessions all put together, and we believe that the sum total of them is worth so much more than the individual components. And so a themed mix is actually worth $2,520. And so if all of you in this group that is together, that's $12,000 worth of value, right? You're also going to receive a daily micro lesson via email that'll just get you to focus on one thing, because in our very busy lives, even if we have the best intentions about improving ourselves and about being on a personal development, self-growth, self-improvement program, quite frankly, we get distracted, and we particularly easily get distracted these days. There's a whole heap of science around distraction. And quite frankly, a lot of stress, a lot of cognitive decline actually comes from not focusing on one thing at one time. Like multitasking is actually really bad for your brain. It's really bad for brain health, okay? So if you can actually learn to be really focused and pay attention on just one activity at one time, you're actually doing your brain a real favor, right? Now, if you are the person who signs up for this today, then I will actually also do a coaching session with you for 20 to 30 minutes on a particular subject. And so most people, if you go to Serafini Mindspire and you go and look at connections with Kim, you'll see what my rates are. But quite frankly, it's pretty incredible. And then if you are a signature member or you're a VIP member, you will receive the virtual retreat, this actual program that we're going through right now. So you'll be invited. And of course, this will be in it'll be recorded as well, and it'll be available to you. But we are actually doing something that's really, really, really incredible. Let's just go here. So we are creating these particular guides. So here's the patient's one, right? So we're actually going to give you the PDFs of all the statements. So I'll explain to you. You will be able to have resources in this retreat program that will reinforce each of the themes of each of the major classes. And a little bit like our certification program, I don't know if everybody knows that we actually certify health coaches, social workers, psychologists, authors, speakers, trainers, leaders in positive priming, in the positive psychology and the neuroscience, and how to use this tool as a change facilitator. Anyway, we have incredible resources. We are doing exactly the same for this virtual retreat program. And quite frankly, if you come on the real live retreat in person, you'll also receive all of these. So there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of these incredible statements, slides or frames, whatever you want to call them, included in PDF. So that's actually available. But not only that, if you're a signature member, so you pay $19.99 a month, or if you're a VIP member and you paid $159 up front, you're actually going to have access to some VIP classes and some master classes, right? So this VIP coaching call is absolutely fantastic. It explains a whole heap about how to get the most out of positive prime. And I re-listened to it the other day and it was gold, absolute gold what I shared, right? But then I will tell you, we've got these master classes. So this class with Robert McPhee, my beautiful friend, or with the neuroscientist, Dr. Selena Bartlett, or with Sherry Parks about transforming your relationship with money, or with Louisa about the joy revolution. Seriously, absolutely amazing masterclasses, and they happen monthly, and we're adding and adding and adding. So what you need to know is that this particular program is actually only available until this time next week. And so I want you to go out there and tell everybody who's in your team that they absolutely need to take advantage of this. We will never do something where it's all together. So we have a virtual retreat program. We have all the resources that go with that. We have the standard signature membership, which means you have the ability to personalize all your sessions. You get all these themed mixes so that you can actually watch these sessions that are the combination of a whole heap of sessions. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And in addition to all of that, guess what? You get to have one beautiful connection with me so I can guide you to actually potentially overcome one of those critical things that actually just stop you, right? As one of these special types of clients, we'll also give you the access opportunity to have further coaching or mentoring with me if you want at a really majorly discounted price, right? So access to me is really about whether you're a client or not. And I have clients that actually I do these beautiful virtual healing treatments with it's a combination of guidance and consulting and coaching and mentoring. And I have clients who I literally speak to every single week and have done for at least a year, right? Or at least 2 years. You know, quite frankly, it's amazing. All right, so are there any questions? Because I'm going to dash right now. I am actually going to deliver this presentation again, live in person at my local health and spa resort, where I actually run the Serafini Mind Spa retreats when we do group retreats. And I'm going to actually join with the fitness club manager. We've shared this with all the fitness club members, hundreds and hundreds of them. They've all signed up. I want to come and learn about this. So let me just say, if you want to find out about ionizing, alkalizing, hydration, intense, hydrogen-rich water, please reach out to me. I'll give you all the science on that. And if only I will be able to show you in person what happens if you drink soda water or you drink bottled spring water, and I can do these tests, you'll be alarmed, right? You'll be truly, 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 truly shocked. If you want to understand more about this, then make sure you sign up to the program. If you are already a signature member or a VIP member, I look forward to welcoming you to the first class that is going to be next week. And we are going to go into probably an area that you feel like you're going to know a lot of, but it might not do you so much harm to actually rehear all of what I've got to say about positive emotions and the impact that they have on our bodies, and actually some of the strategies that you might want to employ so that you don't do anger, right? So you don't create that toxicity in your body. I mean, quite frankly, there's enough oxidative stress just living on this planet in today's age. There's enough pollution from our environment. There's enough nitrates in our food. There's enough preservatives in our food. We don't need to actually do additional harm to ourselves by really disempowering negative emotions. We just don't need to do it. And you have a tool, and it's called Positive Prime. And quite frankly, if you want to be a calm, beautiful person who doesn't sweat the small stuff, you need to see photographs of yourself when you watch Christine Carlson's Don't Sweat the Small Stuff session, right? We have hundreds of sessions, right? So I don't know if everybody knows this, but as a VIP member, as a subscribed member, right? Quite frankly, you now have hundreds of courses. All of these are like accelerated learning programs in condensed summary form. And it's just the true essence, the most important, potent parts of these courses, right? So quite frankly, there is just an enormous amount of goodness here. 9 pages of 10 rows. Let's go to 100 rows and let's see what happens here. And more is being added all the time. So if you want to be a person who's really patient, you need to watch this patient session, and you actually need to see photographs of yourself in there, right? If you want to be able to give yourself a little bit of extra oomph in any one day, you might want to watch Pam Burton's Quick Start with Heart, right? If you actually are faced with a really serious decision to make, you might want to make sure that those are excellent decisions, then watch this session by Robert. But if you want to be the person who makes excellent decisions, and that is a part of your identity, then you must personalize the sessions. You have to edit each of these sessions, and at least at the very minimum, add lots of photographs of yourself, your family and friends, your pets, and great memories, right? And it will actually help you to reinforce and lay down and actually perfect these pathways that are much more empowering. Alrighty, so love you very much, and I will look forward to speaking with you very soon. And make sure you jump on this. There are no rain checks, by the way. If you aren't in by the start of the first class, we won't be offering it as an inclusion, and you'll actually have to pay $99 just for the 5-week class all by itself, just for the online recorded version, not for the live version. Okay, all right, bye. Love you all. See you. Who's turning up? Patty's coming to the virtual retreat. Excellent. She says, thanks for coming up with it. I'm so enthusiastic about this. I really and truly am. It's going to be awesome. Thank you, Francine. Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Gwen. Thank you. All right. Love you all. Let's go out there and celebrate life. It's so precious. Bye.